Down by the club like center, where history calls. Two old souls with so much to say. Fred and Mario, they hang every day, teaching lessons you can't learn in class, about life, love, and times that pass. Oh, the wisdom they bring. You can read all the books you want, study till your mind goes numb, but the truth lies in the streets below, where Fred and Mario show you what they know. The wisest guys don't need no history books. They got knowledge that the teachers overlook. Every evening by the Alamo, Fred and Mario, let their wisdom flow. Let it flow, let it flow.
En las calles San Antonio, donde las historias fluyen como el río. Two men sharing what they've seen, making sense of everything in between. No necesitas un profesor, but street wisdom opens every door.
That's right, that's right. You can search through every page, try to understand every age, but the truth comes from the soul of those who watch this city grow. Wisest guys don't need no history books. Oh, they got knowledge that the teachers overlook. Every evening by the Alamo, Fred and Mario, let their wisdom flow. Let it flow.
Listen up, let me break it down for you. Fred taught me more than any classroom ever could do, about respect, integrity, and keeping it real, while Mario showed me how survival feels. They speak about struggles, victories, and pride, stories of people who lived and died by these mission walls where heroes fell, but the real heroes got different stories to tell. Some folks think wisdom comes from degrees, but these wise guys got PhDs in these streets. Every word they speak hits harder than facts, about community, unity, and having each other's backs. Y'all can keep your textbooks in your fancy schools. These men right here follow different rules, living history, breathing right before my eyes. That's why I say these are the wisest guys.
Oh, sometimes the greatest teachers don't stand behind no desk. Sometimes the deepest knowledge comes from the streets of the West.
Let it flow one last time.
Down on East Commerce Street, where the old men play chess, teaching life moves slow, but wisdom moves fast. Two fellas on the corner, been there since way back, trading stories with strangers, keeping track. When the evening comes down, they share what they know. Simple words hit deep like bells down below. Wise guys, wise guys, on the streets of San Antonio, near the walls of the Alamo. Wise, so wise. Every night they're speaking low, in the heart of San Antonio.
Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring.
ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling seas. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Black Life Texas News Magazine, your go-to source for informative, creative, and engaging news. With 85 convenient locations throughout San Antonio, Black Life Texas News Magazine brings you the latest updates on politics, social justice, culture, entertainment, and more. From thought-provoking articles to inspiring profiles, we cover the topics that matter most to you. Stay informed, connected, and inspired with our in-depth analysis and coverage of critical issues affecting the Black community. But we don't stop there. Black Life Texas News Magazine is your guide to upcoming events, festivals, and exhibitions that celebrate African American heritage and promote unity. Don't miss another copy. Subscribe today for convenient home delivery. Get your hands on Black Life Texas News Magazine and be part of the conversation that matters most to our community. Black Life Texas.
Welcome to the Wise Guys Show, the hottest show in America that digs into the important issues of Black America. I am Fred Williams with my co-host and buddy in this struggle to try to define what the hell's going on in this country, Mario Salas. And so we're going to start out today, and this is really deep, folks. This is really deep. Mario, we all know the John Wayne, Davy Crockett, Alamo show that we all saw when we were kids, and we believe that that was really what happened. And they come out looking like heroes. Remember the Alamo and all this stuff. Well, Mario's did this great research into this and has written a book called Alamo, Cradle of Lies and Deceit, Slavery, and White Racism. So Mario's gonna talk to us about what really we don't know about what happened in 1836 in that little old place called the Alamo. So, Brother Mario, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Fred. Well, yeah, I like to start off by giving some picture of the larger picture. Slavery in Texas was not much different from any other Southern slave-owning state in the 1800s. It was a horrible institution, we know, filled with barbaric acts of violence and injustice. However, in Texas, instead of a strong reliance on Confederate slave owner heroes, like they do in Mississippi and Alabama, we in San Antonio was able to capture the same type of love affair with hatred using the Battle of the Alamo and Texas independence. So this became the backbone or the backdrop of racism in San Antonio. Slavery was the accepted call to make money by all of the Alamo defenders. Every Alamo defender, every one of them, owned at least one slave. So the 185, 186, the numbers vary depending on which researcher you talk to, anywhere between 180 and 250. Every one of them owned at least one slave. Some owned more. Jim Bowie owned much more. Matter of fact, he was a slave smuggler. He was a he was a land swindler. He would draw up fake deeds and then sell them to people saying, "I'm going to sell you this land." And the deeds he would draw up, he didn't own the land at all. So he was a land swindler, is what he was. He was a liar, a cheat, and he brought about 8 to 10 slaves with him that he purchased from Jean Lafitte, the pirate, at Galveston Island. And so when he came here, he brought slavery with him. All of the Alamo heroes were riddled with this disease of white supremacy. All of the slave owners thrived on lies about their virtue and bravery, about being strong men who supposedly cut their way through the wilderness. There was not even a wilderness to Native Americans. Texas settlers confused sadism with love. They confused civilization with domination. And because Texas settlers came from slave-owning states like Tennessee, Virginia, Kentucky, hatred of all that were not labeled white came with them. Passing on wealth to the children and grandchildren of slave owners became the goal in life. And so as to create a way for their ancestors to live without working. You know, the laziest people on earth at that time were slave owners. I mean, Fred, lazy, lazy, lazy. All of them lazy. They wouldn't do none of the work. They're not picking no cotton. They're not picking watermelons. They're not doing none of that. They're using slaves to do that for them, create the wealth, and then pass it on to their children. And you know how they pass it on. They tell their children and grandchildren, well, he was a man of great influence. He was a man who was a self-made man. They love to use that term, self-made. He wasn't self-made. He was a slave owner. Right? So this is the lies that, or you get the other group of slave owners who make the arguments, well, we treated all our slaves well. And then they'll often use the softer term instead of slaves. They'll say, we treated our servants well.
Yeah.
So servant becomes a softer word because they know they're wrong in their mind. So they don't want to use the word slave, so they soften up stuff. So this is generally how they did it. They spoiled themselves, right? They spoiled themselves with this romantic royal belief in the invented holiness of their grandfather's words. But it involved hatred of dark-skinned people, no doubt. Passing on wealth in the form of donated land, donated mansions, modern-day tourists can go to, bed and breakfast. You know, some of these bed and breakfast homes were actually slave owner homes or slave owner mansions. They're now museums or restaurants where the barbaric treatment of Black people can be hidden in a more modern sense. So the Battle of the Alamo and San Jacinto was a victory for the slave owners of Texas, and white supremacy. It was all about white supremacist celebrations that few even realize today. You know, now we're treated a bunch of medals. I mean, I saw one guy with so many Fiesta medals on his shirt. Gosh, we could have sold him for junk. So many medals he had on his shirt. And you know, and beer drinking, and it's just a grand party. So the real meaning of Fiesta Week has been lost. The Battle of Flowers, which commemorates the Battle of the Alamo, took place in San Antonio, 1836. Fiesta is the city's principal festival, raking in hundreds of millions of dollars, to which there's no doubt. And as we know in life, one person's celebration is another person's horror. And Fiesta revelers might want to take a deeper look at this party and remember how the history of it began as an event to honor the memory of slave owners and made up the bulk of the Alamo defenders. The Texas Cavaliers, I'm sure you might have seen those guys, Fred. They wear these military-styled court jester type uniforms. They look ridiculous. and they call themselves they're made to look as some sort of royalty, the court of the Cavaliers, when in fact it was designed to be the cultural guardians of white supremacy. So Fiesta dates back to 1891 when a congressman's wife, and I believe that congressman's name was Sladen, in 1891, wanted to enshrine this supremacy by honoring the heroes of the Alamo. So she took it upon herself to do a mock reenactment of San Jacinto by throwing flowers around the Alamo. So that's the origin of the Battle of Flowers.
Oh, okay.
Fiesta Week is actually a nightmare dressed up to ignore the real history of hatred. And most people don't know that. And sure, we can go out and celebrate and pick up some medals and all of that. But remember what it was originally meant to be. The history of it is now hidden, Fred. They've hidden it.
Okay. Okay. I think we're going to take a break here. We'll come back and continue.
When I came back from the war, I was barely hanging on by a thread. I'm here today because of Tanya's relentless efforts in trying to get me healed. And says, Michael, I know you've got a plan to take your life today, but if you give me just 5 more minutes to love you. 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, honey, 5 more minutes.
Michael has actually taught me what it looks like to accept help.
The bravest person I know is definitely my dad, 100%.
My friend Sean.
My daughter Cynthia, and she was in the United States Army.
One of the bravest things he ever did wasn't when he first enlisted, it was when he found his first support group.
Our journey has not been easy.
One of the bravest things he did was when he asked to move in with me and my mom.
I felt like I was lost, and you gave me a place to stay.
When he decided he was going to go back to school after 23 years.
It was the better part of my life that I spent in the Marine Corps. Transitioning out, it's a difficult thing.
She went on foreign soil. She went to war. But the bravest thing she did is when she asked for help.
So I really appreciate it.
You know you don't have to wear your PT gear anymore, right?
It's comfortable.
So how's civilian life treating you?
It's fine.
When I got out, I didn't want to admit that there was anything wrong because I felt like a failure. And then I realized, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I started talking to someone. Maybe you are fine, but if you're not, it's okay. Thank you.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
People couldn't see my potential, so I had to show them.
I've run this place for 20 years, but I still need to prove that I'm more than what you see on paper.
Today, I'm the CEO of my own company.
It's the way my mind works. I have a very mechanical brain.
Why are we not rethinking this?
I am more.
I'm more
than who I am on paper.
Black Life Texas News Magazine, your go-to source for informative, creative, and engaging news. With 85 convenient locations throughout San Antonio, Black Life Texas News Magazine brings you the latest updates on politics, social justice, culture, entertainment, and more. From thought-provoking articles to inspiring profiles, we cover the topics that matter most to you. Stay informed, connected, and inspired with our in-depth analysis and coverage of critical issues affecting the Black community. But we don't stop there. Black Life Texas News Magazine is your guide to upcoming events, festivals, and exhibitions that celebrate African American heritage and promote unity. Don't miss another copy. Subscribe today for convenient home delivery. Get your hands on Black Life Texas News Magazine and be part of the conversation that matters most to our community. Black Life Texas.
Okay, welcome back to Wise Guys. Byron, I have a question for you before we change the subject. Didn't Texas want to get into the Union right after the Alamo, and they declared their freedom from Mexico. Didn't they try to get right into the Union?
Yeah, they did, Fred. Texas wanted to become the 28th state, but they wanted to enter the Union as a slave state, because at the time there were two types of states regarding slavery. You were either a free state, they sometimes would say free soiler state, or you were a slave state. So Texas entered the Union as a 28th state, as a slave state, and every black person that Mexico had freed from slavery, they were put back into slavery, the ones they could catch. The ones they couldn't catch escaped to Mexico, and once crossed the Rio Grande, were free. But yeah, that's what happened. Texas became a slave state immediately after that. And look, Sam Houston, Andrew Jackson, they were in on this conspiracy together. They wanted to expand slavery all the way out to the West Coast, and Mexico stood in the way. All that land mass that Mexico owned, Texas, parts of Colorado, all the way up to Utah and other places, California, they couldn't expand slavery when you had a government that was opposed to slavery. So that was the grand plot, Sam Houston, Andrew Jackson, and then he used those scapegoats at the Alamo to do just that.
And that the desire to expand, isn't that one of the okay, they get into the Union, then they declare war on Mexico, right? To take the rest of that land almost all the way to California.
Yeah, right after the Battle of the Alamo and San Jacinto, which is 1836.
Right.
Next battle that took place was with Mexico itself, where they crossed in, captured Mexico City in 1846 to 1848. So Texas as soon as Mexico was defeated and they tried to get all the slaves back that had escaped, they were not successful, but they tried. But as soon as that happened, between 1846 and 1848 is when Texas applied to be a slave state in the United States. It would have been the 28th state.
Okay. All right. Okay, you want to add anything else? You want to say a little bit about how they can get your book? Because it's something.
Yeah, the book is titled The Alamo, A Cradle of Lies, and there it is on the screen, A Cradle of Lies, Slavery and White Supremacy. And the book is available at Cynthia Publishing. You could just type in the name, The Alamo, A Cradle of Lies, Slavery and White Supremacy, and my name, Mario Salas, and you'll go to the publisher's website or to Amazon, one of the two. And I believe Amazon has it in an audio book as well.
Oh, okay.
But or you just email me, msalas7831@yahoo.com.
Okay, that way they can get an autographed copy, right?
Yeah.
Email you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We're having fun.
Okay. All right. Let's change subjects here, bring it back to the year 2025 and our good president. I said everyone's going to use that word. Let me separate it. With our convicted felon, Donald Trump, and what he's doing. And right now, one of the hottest items is what has happened to Kilmar Garcia. Now, this young man was picked up in Maryland, whisked off to an airplane with 238 other immigrants, taken to El Salvador, marched into a prison, and has been there ever since. And they did this with the fact that he had citizen. Well, he was protected here as under a judge order. Mm-hmm. So now the issue is, should the United States bring him back? Right now, the Trump administration is saying, hell no, we're not going to bring him back. And you know what's interesting, Mario, is in graduate school, I took a course on communication. And one thing we talked about, the use of words, how words can be used to do certain things to different groups or people. And of course, one of the big one was the N-word. That justified lynching Black people, doing everything they wanted to do to them. And now, today, one of the big words is barbarian. barbarian. And listen to that, the people in the Trump administration, they always refer to the immigrants as barbarians. Do you want those barbarians raping your daughters and killing you and everything else? All they need to do, add to it, is say your white daughters, because that's what they're talking about. And the fact is, probably there's more crimes committed by a large number by Americans than there are by the immigrants. But anyway, excuse me. The question is, Mario, they're saying now that they might build prisons over there for citizens who are criminals. They have no plans to bring back those poor guys they sent over there, and they're being tortured in that terrible, terrible environment. So Trump is playing with the idea, well, maybe we can send criminals here from this country overseas or to a country like El Salvador to put them in prison. Obviously, that would be unconstitutional and break all rules of law in this country. But if you project that, and I don't want to be the kind that sounds like I'm always jumping on the bandwagon about race, but that's something we always have to be aware of when people like Trump talk about doing anything to citizens. After the immigrants, I can guarantee you we're the next in line. And so that's why in my article in Black Life Texas, I asked the question, will you be next? And so they're not going to, if they get away with it. Well, let me tell you a little more about what's happening with that case. The district court has told them they have to bring the Garcia back. So Trump took it to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court ruled they have to bring Garcia back. So today in the district court, the district judge was pretty fed up with the Trump people, and he is he's going to possibly bring criminal charges against the Justice Department. Mario, how would that work? I mean, what would happen?
Well, before Trump was ever even elected, he constantly referred to the idea of pardoning himself. And constitutional scholars have said that's possible. It's not impossible. It's not written down anywhere. You can't pardon yourself. And he may, if that were to happen, I could see him at least attempting to do that and dragging. He's a professional at dragging stuff out. He'll drag out think about it for a minute. Okay, he's charged with criminal contempt. He files an appeal. You're talking 3 or 4 more months on an appeal. The Supreme Court rules that it was good. Let's just suppose the Supreme Court says it's good. Then he's charged with that. Then he pardons himself. Then now that has to go to the Supreme Court. So this can go on for a year or more, from the time it starts to the time it's over, and may in fact last past his being the president. And if he thinks about it, and I'm sure he's thinking about it, he could wind up in jail if he's not the president anymore. So he has to be thinking right now of a way to pardon himself for the future, or get J.D. Vance to pardon him for any crime that may arise after he's no longer the president. And a pardon can do that, or set it up so someone he himself can pardon himself. So that's the bad news. The Supreme Court is in a fix, and the scholars are saying we're in a constitutional crisis. I think we are. If he continues to defy the Supreme Court, then we no longer have an effective Supreme Court, which means all power is in his hands, because that's actually the last barrier to keep him from fulfilling his Nazi dream. And I read straight out of the Hitler playbook. Get rid of, somebody told me once, Fred, that you wait till the people who work in these various departments rise up against him. Well, that didn't happen because he fired all of them. So he's found a way to get rid of every little stage or every little point along the way of things that could oppose him. And so he's a master at doing it. Got to give him credit for that. But I don't give him credit for anything else. He's really crazy, to say the least. But he's one of those kind of people that's that's so smart. He's crazy. And so it just, that's the way I read it. I think we're in for really worse things to come.
Yeah.
Worse things to come.
Before we went on air, you were talking about you see this becoming an authoritarian government, right?
Yes.
You see that happening.
Yeah, it looks that way to me. If the Supreme Court can't stop him, I mean, what else? What other way is there to stop him, other than to defeat the Republicans in the Congress so he loses control of the Congress? But then what can we expect then? The election is it's a fake, it's a fraud, and then he files all these lawsuits saying that the Republicans who lost were fraudulently defeated. The Democrats who won by fraud. That's been a very successful tactic for him. So he'll bring that back up again. So even if Democrats win the House, that's another long road. So it's never ending because he's got this totalitarian idea in his head. And he's looking at all the other totalitarians that have been successful. The president of El Salvador calls himself, can you believe this, Fred? He calls himself a cool dictator.
Yeah.
Yeah, as if dictators are cool. So, yeah, he's trying to put a smiley face on a brutal regime. So, I don't know what's going to happen in El Salvador. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a guerrilla movement in the process of trying to get rid of him.
In El Salvador.
Yeah, I believe that's in the works too. And then Hungary is another one. The dictator in Hungary. No, he just loves Donald. They love each other.
Yeah.
Because there's no democracy. It's one man rule, one man telling everybody else what to do, just like Hitler, Mussolini, Hitler. And so we're in for some really dark days, in my opinion.
Well, in that press conference with the man from El Salvador, he told the press, well, it's his decision. The man is in his country now, so it's his decision. So then the press asked him, well, what's your position? He said, I'm not going to release him. I'm not going to do anything. Now, my question to you, are American people dumb enough to believe that he wasn't set up by Trump to say that?
Well, you know how they always say, follow the money?
Yeah.
How much money is El Salvador getting for operating this prison? And if you look at that, was it millions of dollars that El Salvador is getting to run the prison? And then they've done it by contractual agreement. And as we both know, Fred, when you're doing contractual agreements, you can use contracts to violate the law. We know that with the police unions across the country, writing up contracts that they then use to violate the 4th, the 5th, and the 14th Amendments.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like the road they're going down. But following the money, that president ain't going to say anything that Trump doesn't want him to say. Yeah, because the money is flowing to El Salvador. Trump is giving him money.
Yeah, I find it interesting also. If you listen to all his followers, his people in office, they toe the line. They don't even deviate from the line, and it reminds me of the same kind of people were behind Hitler. He had like Goebbels and all these folks. They followed the line perfectly, and it dawned on me, in order for an autocrat to stay in power, he has to have those folks out front supporting him, because what they do is they give some justification to what he's saying. Like he says that he can't bring this kid back from El Salvador. Then he turns to Bondi, the attorney general, and she says, yeah, he's right, it's out of our hands. And then he turned to that Nazi-looking guy in the White House, and he says that the case, the Supreme Court ruled in our favor. So he has all these little lieutenants that are going to justify what he's saying. And it resonates with a certain segment of the American people. I brought up the whole term about barbarian. If you listen to some of these folks out here who are supporting Trump, they use that word. So now they got the perception out there that all the immigrants are barbarians, rapists, and everything else. Just like at the turn of the century, before the turn of the century, we're going all the way back to the 1800s, all Black people were ins, the N-word. So that meant you could do anything you want to do to them and get away with it. And that is exactly what happened in this country.
You're making a good point, Fred, because I saw in the news just before we came on the air where Bondi, Pamela Bondi, she was on the news, and right when they were talking about this innocent man, and they just seem to forget that he's an innocent man.
Right.
Yeah. The being held in a foreign prison that they sent him there. The Bondi actually, right when they were talking about this, she actually put on a piece of a woman who had been a relative or someone had been killed by an immigrant, and this one killing then becomes the major excuse for arresting and deporting everybody, even if they didn't do anything. So this is what they're doing. You're right. The power of a word, the power of words.
Yeah.
To the ignorant. And Fred, to your question, are Americans that dumb? Guess what? In my opinion, many of them are. Not all. We aren't there. We're the wise guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you got to think, with the reading level at 6th grade, God, millions and millions of Americans are just plain stupid. Just plain stupid. They're looking for a strong man. They're looking for a God on earth. And Trump is their new God on earth.
But isn't that more white people than blacks? I won't put us, we're wiser, maybe because of what we've gone through. We're wiser than that. I mean, he can't sell that bull to us, that crap to us, not at all.
No, people of color know better right off the top. Or anybody that's been treated marginally or victimized are going to always be aware. You can't depend on somebody in Washington on a train that's 400 years overdue.
Yeah. The final issue I'll bring up with you, question is, what do you think Black leadership should be doing? I mean, you're in that category because you were certainly a leader here in San Antonio and still are a very leader here in this city.
Well, we've seen I think some very heroic actions on the part of Al Green. We've seen some leaders stand up, and not enough of them doing it. And maybe they're hoping that the wicked witch, the wicked sorcerer will self-implode and they won't have to do too much more. But we saw Al Green shake his walking stick at Donald Trump. We saw Cory Booker filibuster and take the lead in the world record in the United States on holding the floor for that length of time, over 25 hours. But we haven't seen a lot of other leaders. Al Sharpton's done pretty good too, but we haven't seen a lot of other leaders take, the bull by the horns and do that. I think the demonstrations in the street, we're coming up, what's today? What's this, the 16th? We're coming up on the 19th, which is the next big demonstration against Trump.
Yeah.
So let's see how that goes. Now in some cities, well, in Atlanta was a majority Black, or was at least 50-50 in that demonstration against Trump. So I think we may start to see increases in it as the word starts to spread. Certainly, power concedes nothing without a demand. And if you're not demanding something, and sometimes that means in the street, then your voice will just simply not be heard.
Well, to all our viewers, I think that we all need to be aware of what is happening, and we're not immune somewhere down the line of being a victim of Trump's treacherous behavior. And here's something I want to share with you all from Justice Sotomayor. She said in her dissent in Trump deportation case that the implication of the government's position is that not only non-citizens, but also United States citizens could be taken off the street. United States citizens could be taken off the streets, forced onto planes, and confined to foreign prisons with no opportunity for redress and judicial review is denied unlawfully before removal. In other words, she's saying that every one of those folks should have gotten judicial review. So that is the big issue, and I hope everyone out there follows this closely, because if we lose, that means none of us will be able to get habeas corpus or get judicial review. So with that in mind, I don't want to argue. Mario and my job is not to scare people, but to make people aware of what's happening out here.
We're still woke, Fred.
Yeah.
WOKE. We're still woke.
Yeah. You got any final words before we sign off today?
Yeah, I agree with you, Fred. We've got to watch this very carefully. I mean, who knows what's happened next? I mean, is Al Green going to be arrested because his words were words of insurrection? Is Cory Booker going to be arrested because his filibuster was directed against the when everyone should be loyal to the president? I mean, I'm looking for the next big move that Trump's going to attempt, and I'm not quite sure what it is, because he has quite an array of things he could do. But I'm looking for, he's going to jump it up. If you notice, he jumps it up each time. And he does the tariffs, and he backs off the tariffs. Then he does this again, and then he picks on one country and then eases off another. So this is his mode of operation, is to keep the public off balance. He keeps on doing that. So that's his mode of operation, to keep doing that. So I'm looking for something else that'll draw the attention of the public away from him, directly away from him. So I don't know, maybe he'll pinch himself on his back and claim he was shot. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, by the way, he wasn't shot. That was a piece of shrapnel. I think most everybody knows that.
Uh-oh. Are you saying that was...
It wasn't shot. Being shot means that a bullet of a certain caliber enters your body, That was not a shot. That was a piece of shrapnel. And for his doctor to keep claiming that it's still sore, or there's a little scab there, what a joke. That is a joke. Well, his doctor's a MAGA congressman. His doctor's a MAGA congressman. So he's going to lie every chance he gets. If the president had a heart problem, he's in perfect health.
Yeah, definitely. So we really don't know.
Yeah. So no, but I think I agree with you, Fred. We need to be on the lookout for the next big move, because he's got one up his sleeve. It's always something up his sleeve.
Okay. And I think that's good advice, Mario. Hope all our viewers will, along with us, follow next week what's happening, because we definitely will be bringing it to you when we meet again. So in the meantime, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and we will be back with you next week telling our story, our way.
The wise guys.
The wise guys.